to 45 minutes past 4, but we're having a bit of a delay. If you ask questions to say a number about your, well, after you had a date, your girlfriend, and also similar questions with a number associated. I think the previous speakers are a bit of a different type of speakers compared to me. So when you see the title of my presentation, you probably sense that I will be able to give you a collective approach with this topic. So if you look at the agenda of my presentation, we probably touch upon the National Safety Management Plan from the national level, and they were mentioning about second or third waves. So I will be talking about the field response information system and the sustainable management plan. In terms of the national safety management, so from this year for 5 years, according to the 4th master plan for national safety management, we will be following this. There is expressions called the government who is responsible for safety, which means the governments will have full responsibility when it comes to safety. And there is also another one that I have circled under strategy called inclusive safety management. So yeah, within the 4th master plan, we have touched upon a lot about the safety responsibility and inclusive safety. Now you look at the previous master plan, which focused on natural disaster. Before 2004, the human disaster was part of the national disaster plan. In the second master plan, because we became a member of OECD, we touch upon the OECD, the comparison with other OECD the countries. So in the current editions, we talked about the inclusivity. So South Korea's national safety the management plan, it is highly associated with the UDR and EDP. So the fundamentals of the current master plan is the resilience, participation, and inclusivity. And these are simultaneously in place. I'm not sure whether you remember there was a Stella the ferry back in 2017, which sank in the Brazilian Sea, which led to a death of over 400 people. some people tend to compare this accident with the Sewol ferry, where compensation was provided, whereas the losses at the Stella ferry wasn't given any compensation. So when you look at COVID-19 from the perspective of resilience and inclusivity, we talked about multifunctionality, redundancy, modularization, and connectivity and flexibility. So when a disaster occurs, we say good resilience means quick recovery. So in terms of the multifunctionalities, and we have implemented 5-day rotation system for mask purchase. If you look at the next slide, from the perspective of field, the method of testing, and then the temperature checks were very vital for resilience. The third point, which I haven't touched upon, is the support from experts with a virtual meeting. This is something we're still working on. This is my personal opinion from the expert perspective. We have used the expression inclusivity a lot. The vulnerable group within socio-economic perspective were more affected by the COVID-19. And even when you look at the income, the differentiations between the full-time workers and temp workers, there was about a third difference between these groups. Especially those temp workers and then the foreign workers, laborers, they were drastically affected by the situation. If you look at the left graph, you probably can't see because it's due to the small font size, but the yellow graph indicate the age group, and then the red one indicate the gender gap. So we have seen these issues. However, the government has taken very proactive actions towards the overseas residents. So the Korean government has managed to return over 30,000 Korean residents from overseas as of May 22. There were some boycotts and from the local community people about accommodating those people from overseas. And also there has been government financial aid rolled out on the 14th of May. I'm not sure any of you has received the fund from the government. If you look at the graph underneath, it shows the sales fluctuations by the major aid card issuer. showing from the period from the end of March towards the recent time. So there was need for the field information system. This information is something I have researched, not something that I saw in the field. There is a long time process for those who had contact with the people who's been confirmed with coronavirus. So we have divided this group into the primary contact and secondary contact, which cause difficulties when handling this patient. So we saw the need for having this information in place. So when it comes to condition for the information system, the technology, knowledge experts, the information from social media were needed, and it could be derived from the field expert and network. I had to double check what the meaning of untact, which I couldn't find from Google, but it's sort of the English word created by Korean people. So untagged virtual meeting has become a norm. A lot more people is using this untagged digitalization technology. If you keep that slide on, you can see that the amount of information trafficked on Zoom has rapidly increased. It took about 100 years between the 1800s and between 1800 and 1900, but for the to double up. But now it takes only a year. However, when it comes to digitalizations and diversifications, the privacy is still a issue that people still talking about. And there was also a burning discussion about the whether we will use LTE or not. So it was discussed that maybe this is this is a great opportunity for us to build this virtual platform to share this information, because there are tons of information available on the net. It is needed to create a algorithm where we can detrive the information from and utilize those information on. And people do talk about AlphaGo a lot, which is the technology used to collect and utilize information. Let's assume the coronavirus came from Wuhan by one person who appeared to have temperature And when he was entering the airport, it would have been very straightforward if he managed to capture that person, but the reality was different. Now people say, all these different departments are involved doing different things. So at the moment, it's vertically structure, but the model we're looking to switch to is horizontal structure. Because the amount of cost that we will have to embrace is vast after an incident takes place. If the financial aid runs out, there will be a bigger problem awaiting for us. I'm not sure whether I'm the best person to talk about this because there are better experts today. So when the resident Korean people from overseas return to Korea, they had been placed in those facilities and shelter. And what we saw was 500 parcels delivered to them. But due to the amount of parcels, there were restrictions on access to the facilities. Therefore, these response agencies and necessary the workforce were necessary. And also there is a need for training on education. And it is vital to have a platform plus organizations to enable these. So when the training is needed, it is important to have this training running. And next slide, please. We talked about inclusivity a lot. Those volunteering organizations, it is important to support medical expenses for the losses of the earnings they have had to embrace. And also, we need to hire those who manually do censoring about COVID-19, which will create some jobs. So this isn't the last slide, by the way. With regards to enhancing inclusive safety management, it had become an issue when the personal information was disclosed, which caused some uncomfortable situations. So in terms of inclusivity, it is vital to have participations from the civilian experts or stakeholders. I was trying to find some images about the civilian experts' participations, and the left two images were the ones that I was able to find. So with the perspective of resilience and inclusivity, it is we come up with the 6 solutions about the times post the COVID-19.